All right, MicroStrategy Chairman Michael Saylor accused of evading $25 million in taxes by D.C. Attorney General. God, D.C. is such a hellhole. I live I live kind of close to D.C., and man, it is just a crime-ridden liberal hellhole. But here we go. D.C. Attorney General Karl Racine accuses tech billionaire Michael Saylor of evading $25 million in district taxes in a new lawsuit filed Wednesday. The lawsuit also names MicroStrategy, the data tracking company Saylor co-founded, as a defendant, claiming the company conspired to help Saylor evade taxes. Saylor allegedly claimed to reside in Florida, which does not have a personal income tax, while actually living in several different homes, according to the lawsuit. Yeah, no crap. Everybody knows Michael Saylor has a giant mansion in Miami. The guy's worth $1 billion. He has houses in Florida. He has houses in California, probably. He probably has houses in D.C., Virginia. You don't pay taxes in every state you live in, Attorney General D.C. His main residence is Florida. Now, normally you have to spend at least 6 to 7 months in that state that you live in to not pay the personal income tax. But it's kind of a straw man argument. What are they going to say? Well, Michael Saylor spent, 3 or 4 months in D.C., so now he has to pay taxes. No, it's kind of like if I live in Miami and I visit somebody in D.C., or I have a place in D.C., how are they going to prove exactly where I was? How are they going to prove that I didn't drive back to Miami? Because normally what you can do is you can stay in say D.C. for 2 weeks, drive back to Miami for a couple days, and then it basically erases the 2 weeks you stayed there, and then you can basically go back. Do they have detailed records of everywhere Michael Saylor has been for the last year? This whole thing is ridiculous. This is why people hate D.C. The only people who live in D.C. who aren't super, super rich. If you're super rich, you live in D.C. because, you can live in some big mansion overlooking the Capitol, and you can basically, say I live in D.C. The only other people who live in D.C. are people who work in D.C. for government jobs. It is such a high-taxed, crime-ridden, just absolute hellhole, and this is why. My prediction is that D.C. Attorney General Karl Racine just has it out for Michael Saylor, and she's trying to basically file this frivolous lawsuit. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. That's my personal opinion. I'm not a lawyer, none of that. But my personal opinion is this thing is going to go nowhere. They're basically trying to nickel and dime this guy. Oh, you claim you live in Florida, but you spent this much time in D.C., so now you have to give us $25 million for taxes. Give me a break. And how do you even prove it? You can drive from D.C. to Florida in 12, 15 hours? What do they have, a tracker up Michael Saylor's ass and they know exactly how much time he spent everywhere? Most of the interviews Michael Saylor has given, if you look at all the interviews, are from his big mansion in Miami. He has a giant mansion in Miami. In fact, I will dig up a picture of it. Okay, here is Michael Saylor's giant mansion in Miami, and I just looked it up. He also has a place in Maryland as well. The guy lives everywhere. So was he supposed to pay taxes in Maryland too? Every state he has a house, he's supposed to pay income tax? That's not how the law works. Everybody knows his main house is in Miami. That's where his driver's license is. That's where he claims residence. You're allowed to have houses other places and not pay taxes in those locations. So basically this is a 100%, in my opinion, witch hunt. And I'm not even a big Michael Saylor fan. I kind of agree with Richard Hart. He bought the top and probably got a lot of people wrecked. But this lawsuit, in my opinion, will go absolutely nowhere. We'll see what happens. But it just makes me hate D.C. even more. D.C. is a crime-ridden, corrupt hellhole. Been a private investigator for 20 years. I was licensed in D.C. for 10 years. Every time I had to go into D.C., I wanted to shoot myself. It's absolute hellhole.